California wildfires have created death, destruction, and exposed numerous vulnerabilities in the prevention and emergency response capabilities in California. While we know many of the fires were a result of arson magnified by high winds and dry conditions, it is only natural to question the possibility this tragedy could have been prevented, or at the very least mitigated in the scope of damage, destruction, and death. The glaring truth about this situation is there were warnings several days ahead of time. I repeat, there were warnings several days ahead of time. The National Weather Service issued an extreme fire risk warning on January 2nd. The following day, the National Weather Service Los Angeles held a briefing. Then, the next day, the Los Angeles mayor, Karen Bass, who is an Obama darling in the last election, flew to Ghana 2 whole days after an extreme fire risk had been declared. The city of Los Angeles had 5 days to mobilize a response effort before any fire had broken out. Yet the person in charge left anyway, while the city's second largest water reservoir sat dry from being drained by the LA Department of Water and Power. Upon investigation, Bass advocated for further budget cuts to the fire department, despite Fire Chief Kristen Crowley's warnings of response vulnerability in the event of a disaster. The approved budget for Los Angeles already cut $17.6 million to the fire department, and in a leaked memo published by the Daily Mail, we found that Karen Bass, in the week prior to the fires, demanded an additional cut of $49 million. We also learned the Pacific Palisades water reservoir was offline and empty when the firestorm started, and had been for at least a year. Governor Gavin Newsom deemed these reports mis- and disinformation, only to later call for an investigation as to the cause. Under Newsom's leadership, the state budget, signed in June of 2024, eliminated $101 million from 7 wildfire and forest resilience programs, according to Newsweek. Additionally, we learned that in 2022, the LA Fire Department donated surplus equipment to Ukraine.
We are extremely proud to help our brother and sister firefighters in Ukraine because we know how dangerous it is to fight fires with full gear. We've never experienced fighting in a war, but whatever we can do to assist them, to enable them to protect the lives and property of their fellow citizens, we're on board.
Not only that, President Donald Trump warned Governor Newsom of the dangers of forest management neglect all the way back in 2019 during the Kincaid fire in Sonoma County.
It's cleaned out and protected. You've got to take care of the floors, the floors of the forests, very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. So I know everybody's looking at that.
It is absolutely clear that while these fires were intensified by powerful and uncontrollable winds, there's a mountain of evidence that incompetence or outright neglect contributed to the devastating outcome. Many are wondering how this was possible, and was it intentional? While there is no clear answer, speculation has gravitated toward the Smart LA 2028 initiative, leading some to ask, is this part of a plan to upgrade LA to a smart city? Skepticism was similarly raised in 2023 during the Lahaina fires in Hawaii. Much speculation regarding land grabs by the government were touted by many. Oddly enough, Governor Newsom mentioned that while reporting from the ashes of LA.
We're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties, and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks.
A smart city is defined as an urban area that utilizes digital technology to collect data and operate services. Smart cities are a large part of the UN Agenda 2030, which aims to achieve peace and prosperity for people and the planet by 2030. The Smart LA 2028 initiative is part of Los Angeles' efforts to modernize the city's infrastructure and services ahead of hosting the 2028 Summer Olympics. The initiative focuses on creating a smart city that utilizes technology and data to improve urban living in various sectors such as transportation, public safety, sustainability, and housing. Key goals of the Smart LA 2028 initiative include expanding internet access, leveraging smart technologies to reduce the city's carbon footprint, upgrading transit infrastructure with smart technologies to reduce traffic congestion, using sensors, cameras, and data analytics to improve emergency response times and monitor environmental conditions, and encouraging technology-driven economic growth. Basically, the city of Los Angeles wants to be able to engage in mass data collection, which will produce a technological outcome they believe will result in better quality of life. Critics point to the high likelihood of privacy violations, cybersecurity risks, and a surveillance state as just a few of the reasons why smart cities are a bad idea when it comes to personal liberty and privacy. While the smart city debate is worth having, we're specifically interested in whether or not those advocating for Smart LA 2028 stand to actually benefit from the California wildfires. First, let's look at the timing. The Smart LA 2028 initiative was created in 2020 with an 8-year timeline to implement prior to the 2028 Olympic Games. In 2025, we're now only 3 years out from this deadline. For anyone in California wanting to develop or build, stringent adherence to the California Environmental Quality Act is required, and for those on the coast, adherence to the California Coastal Act. The guidelines can be costly, anywhere from $1,000 to upwards of $500,000 depending on the project. But there's more than just the monetary cost, and to some, it may be more costly. We're talking about time. Approvals can take months or even years in many cases. However, these prohibitive roadblocks have just been removed for previously existing properties. On January 12th, Governor Gavin Newsom signed Executive Order N425, suspending regulations for the California Environmental Quality Act and the California Coastal Act. This will essentially fast-track the rebuilding process, allowing for ground-up construction, implementing not only fire-resistant building materials, but also smart technology integration in record time. On the heels of the executive order, Newsom spoke to meet the press, declaring he had already engaged in reimagining LA 2.0 and has a, quote, Marshall Plan for the city.
We're already organizing a Marshall Plan. We already have a team of looking and reimagining LA 2.0, and we're making sure everyone's included, not just the folks on the coast, people here that were ravaged by this disaster.
You just said you're organizing a Marshall Plan for the rebuilding of California. What is that Marshall Plan?
For
Tell
this
us about
region,
this Marshall
we're just
Plan.
starting to lay out. I mean, we're still fighting these fires, so we're already talking to city leaders. We're already talking to civic leaders. We're already talking to business leaders and nonprofits. We're talking to labor leaders. We're starting to organize how we can put together a collection of individuals on philanthropy for recovery, how we can organize the region, how we can make sure that we are.
This also affords an enormous opportunity for the tech industry. This very area is home to what is referred to as Silicon Beach. Centered in areas like Santa Monica, Venice, and Playa Vista, major tech companies involved in the smart city space, such as Google, Tesla, Snap Inc., Oracle, and SpaceX, as well as startups focused on clean energy, fire prevention, and AI, could be key stakeholders in Smart LA 2028. This could create a level of public-private partnership that has never been seen before. Another aspect of smart cities is the various sustainable green initiatives, like solar panels, grid upgrades, and clean energy. Many stand to gain from these types of initiatives, like product manufacturers, as well as the companies that install them. Utility companies like privately owned Southern California Edison, that provides power to much of the affected area, could also see a mass grid upgrade subsidized by state and federal government. This presents a very real opportunity to fast-track various aspects of the Smart LA 2028 plan, with a blank canvas and with access to a large influx of funding from the state and federal government, not only for recovery, but also under the umbrella of Olympic Games funding. Governor Newsom recently requested $2.5 billion from the state of California to be set aside for emergency response funding and increased preparedness, but that is likely only the beginning. In Newsom's request for emergency response funding are some of the very same items specifically laid out in the Smart LA 2028 plan, including smart sensors and upgraded emergency communication for emergency teams, AI and machine learning to forecast natural disasters, and the use of mobile apps for emergency preparedness and many other initiatives that fit into these very same categories. Some estimates put the total damage valued anywhere from $30 to $150 billion, and thus far, there's not been specific federal funding approved to aid in the process. And while Smart LA 2028 is an aggressive plan aimed at completion by 2028, several factors indicate progress has fallen behind projections. Essentially, the city is behind schedule and the clock is ticking. But with the public now on board with a major recovery effort and an enormous boost in appropriated funding, it's no stretch to imagine a much shorter timeline has presented itself. In conclusion, we cannot prove the California wildfires were set specifically to usher in the completion of the Smart LA 2028 initiative. Regardless of how or why the fire started, one can't help but notice the glaring lack of preemptive attention and the extremely slow response from government leadership. Coincidentally, or not, the result has given the city of LA a potential gift for their smart city agenda. Given that the specific Smart LA 2028 objectives match Newsom's request for funding and the failure to stay on track with progress deadlines, there appears to be a very convenient opportunity for the city of Los Angeles to usher in the UN's vision for peace and prosperity with the completion of Smart LA 2028. The sad truth is, it has all come at a very high price. I'm Ike Wingate, and this has been the Ike Report.